Right, welcome back for another exciting episode of the Leyland 154 restoration. In the last video we repaired the gearbox, had a broken gear, that's all been replaced. The gearbox can now go back on the diff, there's no further damage in here, all the gears look great. They look fantastic actually for the age of the tractor. So get the gearbox back on the diff. And then the other thing we're going to be doing today is this is the difflock lever. There's some bushes in here and they are, well, they're done for. They need replacing. I don't know if I can get the bushings. If I can't get them, we'll have to make them. So we'll be firing up the lathe. I think that's all that needs repairing on this end of the tractor. Obviously, once the tractor's the engine's put back together and on, we will be painting it all. This is a full restoration, eventually. I've got some more parts coming today for the gearbox. Not that we need them today, but there's a couple of springs for the clutch return fork. I bought some new rubber boots for the gear sticks to stop the transmission filling up with oil. I bought a new spring for the difflock lever, but I'll show you that a bit closer up in a second. We're going to have to remove this axle tube from that side because the difflock lever lives in it. So we need to get to the bushes. I haven't read the manual on this. I'm just going to unbolt it and see what happens. I'm pretty sure it should just come away with no bother. And I'm going to get you in and I'll show you the problem with the difflock lever. And then we get on. I've got to clean this face up here. I have got a new gasket. Here is our new gasket that we've put on there. Yeah, let me get you in and I'll show you the difflock lever. Okay, this is our difflock lever. That is difflock in and difflock out. Now you might notice straight away something's amiss here. It's hitting the wing and the wing is fitted correctly. So I don't know what's going on there. This spring here, which is supposed to return the difflock lever to its rest position, that's the difflock disengaged. That's broken. We got a new spring coming. But I don't think that difflock lever is supposed to come back as far as that. I can't tell whether anything's happened here before, but it all looks pretty untouched. We're going to have to take this axle tube off to get to the bushings in there. It's the same as this side. I don't think we got to do any more dismantling other than taking off the ring of bolts that hold it to the diff. But first things first, we got to bolt that gearbox back to the diff. I'm just going to clean up this mating surface here. If I wasn't restoring this, if this was just a tractor to use around the yard, I'll be honest, I'd have just squirted some sealant on that and put it back together. But we're doing a proper job on this, so that's all got to be cleaned up. I shall be using a razor blade, probably a wire brush on a drill, and just clean that up. Now, although I've got a new gasket, this side's all pretty clean. Although I've got a new gasket, I will be using a bit of sealant on that as well, because this is a Leyland tractor, and anyone that knows Leyland, BMC, or any of the old British brands know that oil leaks were built in from the factory. So although we've got a new gasket, as I just mentioned, here's our new gasket, I will be using a little bit of sealant with that, but only a tiny bit, just to make sure that it seals. And I'll be moving that bowl of oil before I kick it. But yes, so give me 2 minutes, I'll clean that surface up there, and we'll quickly pop the gearbox back on, and then we'll start tackling this difflock lever. And once that's fixed, this end of the tractor, other than cleaning and painting, I think is good to go. See you shortly. Okay, I've got that gasket face all cleaned up. I'm going to use a little bit of Hymalar blue. That side's all cleaned up too. That should be good enough. So I'll get some Hermatite on it. Well, Hymalar. Apparently you can't buy hematite anymore. They banned that. I don't know why. But I'm going to get some high malar on here, get the gasket in place, and we'll put the gearbox back on the diff housing. So let me get the gasket in place and we can I'll film that going back on. Okay, that's a tiny bit of high malar on the face and the gasket inserted. The gasket fits very well. I'm quite impressed with that. I've got the smallest amount of, sorry, not hematite, high malar. They've banned hematite like I just mentioned. I'd be interested to know why. But yeah, there's a tiny amount on there. There's a bit on that face and the gasket on top. You could probably get away without any sealant at all, but for the sake of a tiny bit of sealant, why would you chance it? So I'm going to hoist this up and get this in position, and we'll film that going on, and then we'll turn our attention to the difflock lever. See you shortly. Okay, this should be quite straightforward. Move that out of the way. Okay, we're looking pretty straight there. I'm just looking to see whether they're parallel, which they are. Difflock's hanging on. Okay, let's see if we can. I'll go one more little pump on the jack just to bring it up a little bit. Now this is where I suspect we'll have to fiddle. Let me take the top off the gearbox. We've got to engage the output shaft with the diff and the PTO gear. We can just about get a bolt on that. Let's find our cleanest bolt, which I believe was that one. Need a 9/16 spanner. I'm just looking here. I think we need to raise that jack up again a little bit. I think that'll do it. Something's just holding her back. We get a big screwdriver. And as you might be able to hear, it's raining here in sunny southern England. Right, we're actually engaged. So I'm not sure what's holding us up here at the moment. We look nice and parallel. I think if anything, this front strap could do with coming down a little bit, but I'm reluctant to do that. Pull it on a bit more there. Oh, actually, I think she's going. Do keep rotating your gears as you're doing this to make sure you're not binding up on anything. Turn the Let me just shut this door that's behind you. There, let's shut that up. Okay, you can't see here, but we basically need to bring the bottom up. But we're not going to do it that way. I think if I let me hoist down a tiny piece, a tiny amount, I think that'll get us somewhere where we want to be. We just need to close that gap up at the bottom. And then when this is on, I can have another tidy up because there's oil everywhere. Okay. I'm going to loosen this nut a little bit. I'm not sure what's holding them apart at this point. I think we're fully meshed on the drive. I think she is going. Although we're still quite a way away on the bottom. We are jamming up on that gear there. Let me just see if I can give that gear a little spin. It's the PTO gear we're jamming up on. Okay. The gearbox is sitting a bit high at the front here, so I've got to release that a little bit. There we go. I think it went then. We've got to align two separate shafts in here. The PTO shaft has got to sit in its little bush, and the main drive coupling, which appears to be coupled, I don't know whether you can see the gears moving in there, that's me turning the rear hub. That all seems good. This PTO gear in this slot is a bit stiff though. Oh, what a little bugger. Okay, I'm going to wind that one right off. I don't think this bolt up here is helping our situation. Let's do this step up. There she goes. That has lined our PTO gear up, which is now engaged. And they are sliding together nice now. I will have to take this nut off because it hasn't got the spring washer on. But I'll just do this one up and get them fully together. Okay, I'll get a couple of nuts on the bottom and then I'll do the rest off camera as it's not the most exciting. Have a bit of a clean up and then we'll tackle the rear end there. But hopefully that is the end of our knock that we had. Incidentally, the people with the engine block have just called. It's only going 20 thou over, so not as bad as first thought. That's actually good news because 20 thou over pistons are £100 cheaper than 30 and 40 thou oversized pistons. So that's quite pleasing. I still question myself whether I shouldn't have just sleeved it back to standard, because I've actually got a good set of standard pistons and new rings. But I don't doubt we can use them at a later date on something else. Let me get this nut tightened up. Okay, I'm going to do the rest of these nuts off camera and come back to you. There's 4 nuts down each side, 3 across the bottom and the one at the top. That's all that holds them together. You can just undo them and pull them apart. You haven't got to worry about disconnecting anything inside there. So if you're following at home doing your own, that's what you've got to do. Right, I'll see you shortly and we'll start on this rear end. Right, I've had a bit of a clean up, swept up some oil. I've got this wheel and wing off. This is the difflock lever, as I mentioned, and as you can see, it's wobbling around all over the place. The little spring's broken on it. That'll come out. We'll get that out shortly. We're going to have to take this axle off to get in here. I haven't read the manual on this. I'm just presuming if I undo these ringer bolts that this will drop away. Hopefully. But I think we'll get the difflock lever off first, because it'll be easier to work on that whilst this is still attached to the tractor. And then I'll get this row of bolts off and bring you back when we're ready to pull this off the tractor and see what disastrous thing I've forgotten to do. But yeah, I'm going to get this difflock lever off. I got a feeling that is just a cotter pin through there. Hopefully we don't destroy that getting it off. But I'll give that a bit of a wire brushing. You get the wire brush and the WD-40. Definitely a cotter pin. A cotter pin is like a wedged pin that locks it. If you're familiar with old bicycles, they were used all the time on them. Plenty of WD-40. Looks like a 1/2 inch nut. See if I've got a 1/2 inch spanner out. The answer to that is I don't think I have. 9/16. Okay, we got a 1/2 inch spanner. No, it's not a 1/2 inch. It's a 7/16. Do apologise for this. I did say to myself I was going to get all the tools required out, but I haven't. Okay, let's try a 7/16. And it is a 7/16. Might have to put a bit of heat into this to get this pin out, but we'll find out soon enough. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to wind the nut off enough to protect the threads so I can give that a tap. Now I don't know whether it's playing this lever. This lever hits the wing in the off position and you've got to have it right back or the diff lock will start engaging just at that point. If I see that is Got to come right back off with it to get it to release. I have got reproduction fiberglass wings on this tractor, so they're probably thicker. Well, not probably. They definitely will be thicker than the original steel wings. I don't know whether that is the reason the handle hits, but what I'm thinking is, worst case scenario, I'll cut this bar and take a little bit out of it so it sits further from the wing. But I won't be able to do that until I've got the seat and the fuel tank back on, because I need to make sure that that lever clears all of that. That's as far as it comes at the moment. I'm guessing, as this is a cotter pin, is that I can't reposition this on that peg. Otherwise I could have just twisted it round a bit. But either way, the bushes in there are done for. They're finished. Let's see if I can get the big persuader. Okay. And the answer to that is no. So I think we might have to put a bit of heat into that. So let me get a lighter, because my blowtorch no longer lights itself. I'm going to zoom you in a little bit on the offending pin. This is the cotter pin we're removing here. Right, let's move that. I haven't got bottles, I've just got this. Yet again, I doubt this has been off in 50 years. It's not the end of the world. If we damage the cotter pin, we can get a new one of those. I've still got to ring up and find availability on the bushings. I have got a part number for them, but depending on cost and availability, it's probably easier to make our own on the lathe. And that'd be an exciting video, getting the lathe in action. Well, it's exciting to me anyway. But then I am quite a sad individual. I don't know whether cotter pin is the official name for one of them, it's what I call them. If you know a proper name for them, put them in the comments. Bit of fire there, that adds to the excitement. Now, I watched an interesting video a few days ago that told me that WD-40 was developed to stop American nuclear missiles going rusty. I don't know whether that's true. We're going to want a new difflock handle because that one's just broke. Although if that's not available, I won't lose that bit. I guess we can glue that, or worst case scenario, we can make a new one of them. There's no easy way to hit this. Oh, it's moving. That's incredible. It looks like we're free. It looks like we are free. I have mushroomed the nut a little bit, but I'm not too concerned about that. We can put a new nut on. If you're doing up anything that's old and British and uses imperial fittings, mostly UNF and UNC, go on eBay and buy yourself a big bag of nuts and bolts, because they're not readily available locally. UNC, or I believe they're unified coarse threads, are a little harder to get hold of. Well, they're not hard to get hold of, but I've not seen so many big bags of those. Dropped a little washer there, which is red hot. And there is our cotter. I can hear a vehicle outside, but I don't think that needs my attention. Now there is the cotter, and all it is, hang on, let me try and get it in focus for you. It's a pin with a flat spot on it, and as you draw it in, it locks the shaft on. I'll just throw that on the floor over there. Now we've got to try and get the lever off. We get a big flat screwdriver. I've got one strategically positioned on the floor, and all I'm going to do is, if I can, I'm not going to get anywhere with that one. I have got another one here, which has possibly got a thinner blade. No, it hasn't got a thinner blade, so we'll go with an even smaller one. I think that's opened it up enough so we can get a bigger one in. Like I said, this has been on here many years. So let me get that other screwdriver back, if I can see where I put it. I'm using this one because it's already knackered. Put a bit more oil on there. Now if you've got something like this that doesn't want to come out, don't be afraid to knock it back on again. Basically just work that shaft. Go back to our smaller screwdriver. She is coming, albeit slowly. She's coming. What I've noticed straight away is it's smoother in operation. It was a bit of a beast to get engaged sometimes, but that seems to be curing itself. And there we go. That is our difflock lever off. This is the bit of the broken spring, which we'll have to get out. Okay, now I'm going to support the tractor off the jack so I can get this axle off. The axle does look quite heavy. I think I'll thread a strap through the roof beam to take the weight this end. And we'll undo these ringer bolts. I'll do that off camera and come back, and hopefully, I say hopefully a lot, hopefully this unit comes off. So give me 2 minutes and I'll get back to you when I've rigged this up. Okay, I've got all the bolts out. I had to take the brakes off this side so I could rotate the brake actuation lever. It was covering a couple of bolts up. I'll cover the brakes in a different video. But basically it just uses these little, 2 of these that get squished between 2 plates. But we won't go into that bit now. I've secured the axle on the roof beam with this strap, and it is also on the jack. And the axle has come out. Let's have a look. Like I said, I haven't read the manual, so we're doing this together. Looks like it's trying to pull the crown wheel out there. Looks like it's pulling the whole diff out. Okay, well, whilst it's out I can have a quick look at the crown wheel. We can see the pinion in there as well. Luckily we've drained the oil on the diff. Okay, I'm going to get this strap. Just going to tie this round it, and then we can have a look and see what we got going on in there. Okay, let's see if you can. Okay, so it's pulled the diff out with it. There's our diff, which we'll place there. Bearings look good, but I had no trouble with any of that anyway. Now somehow that comes apart. Now I am just noticing on this inner race I'm just inspecting the bearings here. That bearing isn't in the greatest of shape, if I'm going to be honest. I think we probably want a new one of those. Let me get a cloth. Okay, this bearing is in pretty poor condition. It's quite heavily pitted. And this bearing race in here do you know what? It's this is another situation where I probably would have just run with it, but I'm not going to. I'm going to change it. That bearing that side is pretty bad as well. So we're going to want those two bearings. Unfortunately, I am going to have to take the other side off, but we'll do them one side at a time. I don't know how this plate comes out. There is nothing obvious holding that in there. But it must, and actually, unless this whole unit slides out. Let me just take that off and have a look. Like I said, I haven't read the manual on this. I'm winging this. Not actually sure how the difflock works in here. I thought this was just a retaining plate, but maybe it's not. Okay, there's our little retaining plate. Okay, I'm going to have to do a little bit of reading up in the manual this evening to see how this comes apart. I'm guessing this, my guess is this comes off of this, but on the other hand, maybe I've got to pull the whole thing out the back end. Which makes me wonder how on earth do I get a bush in that hole? I'll be honest, I can't even work out how that works. But our axle is out. Luckily we haven't spilt too much more oil on the floor, although that seems to be a running theme. We get a cloth. But the diff, the pinion and the crown wheel look perfect. These bearings don't look so perfect. And like I said, I can't see from looking. I don't think this plate does come out. Which is interesting. It looks like this catches oil that's flicked up by the diff and feeds it down into the bearing. So I'm guessing that could have been short of oil. It doesn't look even remotely oily. So I'm guessing our rear end was heavily short on oil. But that is all we can do today. But I'm pleased that's out. Let me take you off and I'll give you a little bit of a close-up view. I don't know if you can see those bearings. They are pretty shot. And also down here, you can see these. That is pitting, quite heavy pitting. And we've got another bearing in the back of there. Our crown wheel looks great. Our pinion feels fine. And I've just got to work out how this assembly comes apart, so I can get the bushes in here. And if you look, this moves a collar. So I don't know quite how the diff works. But that's all we're going to be doing today. Time's getting on and I've spent too much time on this today. But what have we achieved today? Our gearbox is repaired and bolted back together. Apparently like I just said, we've got at least 2 bearings to change. I don't know about the difflock lever. The worst case scenario is it does work, but I'm not really happy about leaving that like that. That needs those new bushes in. This side obviously hasn't got a difflock lever, so I shall study the manual and see what the disassembly procedure is for that. But that's all for episode 5. I'm trying to make the videos a little more structured. It's not easy doing it with a camera on your phone either, because I can't see what I'm filming whilst I'm filming it. So bear with me. I'm looking at getting a better camera, but cameras are an absolute minefield. I know nothing about cameras. So that's it for today's episode. I'll be back. Hopefully I'll have one out at the weekend, and we'll see if we can't pull this axle unit apart and maybe even make some bushings for it on the lathe. But thanks for tuning in. Don't forget, if you're watching this, to like and subscribe, because that's what all the other YouTubers say, and you surely don't want to miss out on what's turning into, I think, one of the most exciting series on Facebook at the moment, the restoration of my mighty blue tractor. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.